Hello, Emma. I'm delighted to be having into the fourth chat with your good self. Yourself and Steve here.
Hi guys. Thank you very much for inviting me back, and it's always lovely to chat to you guys. So yeah, it's nice to have an excuse to chat to you, I might add.
Yeah.
Hey, great. It's great to speak to you, Emma. Obviously, we chat fair bit on social media and that, but it's not the same as seeing you in
Yeah.
real life almost. Not quite,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. So what's it like in sunny Spain today? Is it sunny, in fact? And have you
Well,
finally settled in your new house now? Any more dramas in the last 24 hours? Your drama seems to follow you around like nobody's
well,
business.
I mean, I have to admit, this year has been like a blur. It's like my mum said, it's like there's like a black hole to from January to like now. Just because mum had her accident at the end of January and she ended up bedridden, and then I'm full-time carer with my dad and Matt, and that was a whole insight to a whole new world of like how quickly you're fine family unit one minute and the next you've got someone literally bedridden, can't go to the toilet or do anything for
Oh,
themselves, and you are their sole carer. And it was literally lying by the seat of my pants, like, how do we do this? And working, and I had to give injections to my mum on her stomach,
oh,
just underneath her tummy button. They were blood thinners. I'm sure a lot of people, I think even Tasha Brown, the author, friend of mine, and you guys as well,
yeah.
she was talking about having these injections, and it's similarly what my mum has. And I'm thinking, I've never given an injection in my life. It was like she went to the Costa del Sol hospital. They dropped her off and were like, yeah, there you go, bye. It was
Yeah.
like, no aftercare, okay. We'll just work this out ourselves, which we did.
Yeah.
But no, she's back on her feet. And although she's still got a long way to go with her recovery, she can walk and do more things for herself. She's even driving again, which is fantastic. And actually, in the grand scheme of things, considering she had multiple fractures in her arm and her pelvis, she's made massive strides in a really short space of time, because her accident was the 31st of January, and we're not even at the end of April yet, technically yet, just until we've got tomorrow. Well, no, it's the first tomorrow, isn't it? 1st of May. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's about 3 months, I think, tomorrow since her actual fall. So I mean, she's just amazed everyone in her speed of recovery. But wow,
Yeah.
I mean, just wow.
It could have been a lot worse. Remember that drug you were talking about? They tried to put your mum on, and it was
Volatil,
like,
I think it's called. No,
whoa.
Nolatil, and it's like a no. And my mum had heard of it already because it's been in the papers, and since then it's been in the papers everywhere in Spain, and they keep trying to press it on people, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't agree with British tourists, or British, I don't know, like our DNA or whatever it is, because it's widely used in Spain. And um usually for a country that's so forward with its medical care and everything and leading the way across the world in many things, I just think, how can they fall so short-sighted with this, where doctors across the world are jumping up and down with countries still using it, being like, really, do stop using it, it's bad stuff, can cause infection, sepsis, leading to amputation, which sometimes people just don't make it, and it's a mystery. It is a mystery. But thank God my mum was switched on and she argued with the guy and said, I'm not having it. I want paracetamol. I'll be fine with paracetamol. And he was like, no, it's not a till. It's very good. And she was like, no, no, no. I'll just have the paracetamol. I'm all good. Thank you.
Dear.
But yeah, it was just scary. And then literally seeing that in the papers, front page newspaper, no to Nolatil, it's like a campaign going now. And I can't go there in my head thinking, if mum's multiple fractures, it would have potentially led the way for infection and all sorts. It just, no. Ooh, heebie jeebies.
Emma, before talking about Darla and the Pink Club series, plus your latest new series, The Mystical Seven, remind us what you do
Yeah.
outside of writing.
So,
Any hobbies? What do you do for fun?
well, I quite like TV programs like Countdown or the 1% Club,
The
anything
chase.
like a puzzle or a quiz. Yeah, the chase. I love the
Brilliant.
chase.
Won it
Anything like
tonight.
that. That is a challenge for the brain. I love all that stuff. I also like doing sketching, and I dabbled in art therapy because I also um in other things that I do under my belt have like an advanced life coaching qualification and a psychology qualification in counselling, and I think it's kind of a happy accident that I think there are notes to like mental health woven in my books, I've noticed. So with the Pink Club series, I have touched on certain things, and people have reflected that as well, and how insightful it's been to actually learn educationally some things that have then helped themselves with techniques that Darla uses for her own sort of pre-stage jitters, if you will, or stressful life situations. And then Midnight Story, which is the first book in the spin-off from Pink Club. So we learn about Darla in the first 4 books in Pink Club, and then Midnight is he's the first of 7 books, because there are 7 chaps that are joined to Darla in the dance team. So she's like the main star, if you will, and they're kind of like her safety dance team, because the stage is like lifted above the stage floor. So they all have a part to play in keeping her safe and everybody else on the stage safe. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to like dive into their lives a bit deeper and learn more about them as characters, because they're all very dynamic individuals. Like they all have their own personal interests. So, you know, Midnight, he likes he's the one that introduced Darla to like street dance outside of her know-how of like ballet, and blend those together, and other bits and bobs. And then you have Siren. I'm actually working on Siren's book. I started that today.
Yeah.
I'm a glutton for punishment. It's like I just keep going.
Prolific.
Yeah, and so I started his story today, and he's an ex-police officer who was fascinated into ballroom, and then he left his world of being a police officer. So we're going to learn more about that in this story, like, you know, his backstory, like why did he leave the force, and how did he get more into dancing, and and what's now after Pink Club, because at the end of the 4th book, yeah, they're all kind of moving on with their lives, if you will. And so this is kind of paving the way of like who they were, what they've done with their life, and where they're going. And then we have characters like Digit, who's a real like tech mastermind. And the one defining thing that attaches all the guys together is their love of dance. But outside of dance, like they have their own life, and they have their own interests and personalities. So Digit is like a tech head, hence his nickname Digit. You've got Fixer, who's a DIY guy, and has all the, you know, like if it's broken, I can probably fix it brain. You've got Mixer, who's very into mixology and chemistry and all that sort of thing. Like he was a star student in chemistry at school, and these are things the readers will learn when they come to his story. Medley, who can read and write music, and he loves the acoustic guitar, and you know, and he can sing. And in real life, I envy people that can do that, read and write music, because I just think, oh, it's such a lovely skill to have. And then we've got Psyche, who actually is very clued up in mental health, and he had a bit of a dark past with alcohol. Like he had alcohol addiction, so he's got an understanding of like how addiction works and those patterns of behavior, and he is keen to help the youth of today, you know, make better decisions for themselves. And that's why he threw himself into dance, because it gives another focus point than, you know, to alleviate any stress that you're having in your life by dancing or through some form of exercise, rather than reaching for the bottle, if you will. So yeah, they're quite an eclectic bunch, really. And I'm enjoying learning more about them as that journey goes on. So I kind of let the character tell me the story, which sounds counterintuitive, because I imagine people are thinking, but aren't you the writer? Aren't you the one creating it? And it, you know, it goes back to Pink Club. I'd quit writing. I'd been trying for 5 years to finish a story idea, and I couldn't do it. And that was it. I downed tools, and I said to my husband, I was like, it's a really difficult decision, but I feel like I'm ready to let it go and just say, you know, it's not meant to be. Like, as much as I wanted to be a writer, it wasn't the right thing, maybe. And just to put it to one side. And then I went to bed, got up the next morning. So writing wasn't even on my mind at all. Just woke up, making my way down the stairs to make my first drink of the morning, which was coffee. Just talked about alcohol and I just want a gin and tonic for breakfast, liquid breakfast. And it was just like, bam, this just idea literally hit me in the visual centers of my mind, or wherever, when you imagine something and you picture stuff in your mind, that part of my brain. And this idea just started to run like a story in my head. And I was thinking, oh my God, I've got to write this down. Like, this is brilliant. Like, this is a really good idea. And then for that next 5-year period, I had some really strong lessons in like what not to do as a writer, and who to trust and who not to trust. Like editors that say that they're editors and they're not editors, and they just want to take your money, and you have to fight tooth and nail to get it back. And lots of people have said I was very lucky to get my money back, because that's usually not the case at all. But I think our family were in a position where it was like I just couldn't afford to lose that money down a black hole. So yeah, I really did have to fight my own corner, and I did win, and I did fortunately get the pennies back.
You look wiser
and
now.
Then oh my God, yeah, like, because I really knew nothing. I was so green going into the world of writing. I had no idea that it takes a village of people to get a book finished. So, once you finish writing it, you've got to consider, like, are you going to self-edit it, or are you going to have an editor? And I would say to anyone writing, if they have the budget for it or the means for it, and they know somebody already or can go by word of mouth, really investigate getting an editor early on. Because I'm now looking to employ an editor of a best-selling author who is the only editor for this writer, and she's got like over 100 books under her belt. And you guys interviewed her,
Delta James.
Yeah. And so she's recommended her editor to me, and hopefully once the book's been proofed, so it's going. This book I've finished now is being proofed, and then it will be edited, and then it might go back to be proofed again. I don't think it will need a second proof, going on the quality of level.
No, she's vastly experienced, isn't she?
Yeah. So I'm quite confident once my editor says, it's good to go, I'll be like, great. The cover's already sorted and finished. And so, I've got a really good team of people behind me, but I had some really steep learning curves along the way. I mean, I was in one part of this journey totally dissolving into tears and just about to throw in the towel because of the bullying tactics of somebody that said, they were going to provide a service that they really weren't qualified to provide, and were almost incensed that I would then ask for the money back because I hadn't done what they said they were going to do. But fortunately, I had contract, so I could really prove that they were in breach of the contract. That really helped me. So contracts are really massively important, if you're going to employ somebody, because it protects both you and them, I suppose. So, don't just take someone by their word, and do lots of research. Lots of research.
That's great advice.
If you're writing, don't let people knock you down, because I was second guessing myself as well. I got to a stage where I was like, should I even be doing this? I'm even good at doing this, and people can really get inside your head and sow those seeds of doubt. And fortunately, I had some really good support around me that were like, don't listen to them, and it's crap what they're saying, and you're writing really good material, and just keep going, and you're really good. And the genuine readers who were saying that they were up to like 3 a.m, they couldn't put the books down. They're just like, I started reading with the intention of like an hour or two, and then I just digested the whole book within like a few hours. That's always great feedback to get as well, because that's kind of my compass point of, am I on the right road? Am I doing the right things for readers, or is it a complete train wreck and I need to go back to the drawing board and rethink my strategies? But touch wood, people seem to like the stories at the minute. So yeah.
Right. Despite a lot of early setbacks, you came through that. You wrote a lot of books in a very short period of time. Because I was looking, and next thing you're like, finish one, started another, finish. I was like, like a whirlwind. But what I need to know is, how have you managed to do that? You've got a family, you've got your mum and dad there, you've got young kids, husband, and they're all demanding. We all know that. how have you managed, and you've moved into a new home, how have you managed to find the time to be a prolific writer?
I just I think writing is like a form of escapism for me. So it's kind of my downtime as much as it's work for me. You know, a lot of people, I think they look at writers like it's a bit of a hobby. Maybe for some writers it's a hobby, but for me it's like my line of work. But I love reading books, and reading is my form of stress relief. And I've actually learned that actually writing stories is just as cathartic because I'm in the world of the characters. So it's kind of my switch off time. As much as I'm switched on writing, I'm working, I'm thinking about all these things of story content and everything else. It's actually my downtime, which probably sounds a bit sort of like, how can it be downtime? Like working. But no, like you said, like when you're running around after 4 children, actually one of my eldest, you know, she's about to turn 13. She's really well behaved, and she just keeps herself to herself, and she stays out of trouble. So I'm very blessed there. But the other 3, oh, you know, you've got ages 7, 9, and 4. So it's like, oh my God, they're all, you know, sometimes they're all vying for your attention, or they're having World War III spats, and you're just like, okay, darling, can you help me? But no, I'm really lucky that, you know, I've got my mum and dad here, and Matt's here as well. So I've got, you know, there's pairs of hands to, you know, help with the children and stuff, which also helps. So it's like now Matt's watching the children, so I can chat to you guys. And you know, my mum and dad have done the school run, because the school is literally a stone's throw from where we live now. So we look out of some of the windows, we can see the school, and they're actually building the secondary school right next to the primary school, which is pretty cool. And we've seen that whole process. So the brand new secondary school opens this year. So my eldest daughter will be one of the first students of the first years at that brand new school. So how many people can say they were the first student of any new school? Like, I don't know anybody. So I was like, you know, it's pretty special and a rarity. And we're so lucky that, you know, we don't have to go through that, jumping through hoops of like catchment area and trying to find a, you know, a secondary school that's close enough, and then you have your choices. And I mean, that's a similar situation to the UK. You have choices of schools, and then it's kind of a lottery as to which school you'll get into. And it's a bit of a to-do in Spain, because there's just reams of paperwork that you have to log to, you know, get your child registered. But fortunately, with each child that's registered at a school, so say like if the child's got siblings, it works on a point system. So because our eldest was in school, there were then so many points for like my first middle child to go to the school, and then it made it easier for the others. Because most Spanish families tend to have 2 children, 1 to 2 children now, because it's just an affording thing. You know, they can't afford to expand on the family, you know, past 1 to 2 children, which I think is just incredibly sad that this is the days we live in. So when I tell people that, you know, I've got 4 children, they look at me like I've just grown 2 heads. They're like, well, how you've got 4 children? I'm like, are you mad? Are you the same person? It's like, well, I thought I was. Tomorrow is also the anniversary of when my husband and I met. We went on our first date, and that was a whirlwind romance, because we met on the 1st of May 2010, and we were married by the 9th of October 2010. And during that time of like intense dating, we were practically living together by the end of like the 2nd week, and he was like on the cusp of proposing to me, and it just happened really organically. We were like both on the same page. We both knew what we wanted in life, and we were both ready to settle down, but both of us were kind of not believing that it would ever happen. I'd had quite a few train wreck of relationships, and I just kind of thought, I think romance is actually dead in the water. And I was starting to like disbelieve the whole thing about, you know, you could find someone to love for like the rest of your life type thing. And I'd actually decided to just take a year off dating and just focus on myself and not to think about it anymore. And then I met Matt. It's like, here we are 14 years later, 4 children, and I'm just sort of like, what happened to the plan, Emma? I'm going to take a year off and just chill out. What happened? And it's like the universe just, I think, has a wacky sense of humor. It really does. It was like, oh, well, we can't poke fun at you anymore, giving you all these like time wasters. You're boring now. So like, oh, here's your future husband,
Brilliant.
the father of your children.
Excellent.
And you know, we had the real sort of like rose tinted goggles on of you know, talking about marriage and children and how many children we would like to have, and not taking that for granted, obviously, because my parents had fertility problems, and Matt and I would later go on to have fertility problems. But you know, I was always thinking like I'd always wanted to have 4 children because I also like even numbers. And then people would say to me, yeah, but 2 is an even number as well. And I was like, well, I just always wanted to have 4 children. And Matt and I had this really lovely chat about it. And I mean, that was chaotic because we had our first baby with no problems whatsoever, natural conception, no issues at all. I found out the night before I was getting married that I was about 6 to 8 weeks pregnant, which explained all the intense dizzy feelings I'd been feeling at the gym although the weeks leading up to the wedding. And because of all the wedding chaos and getting everything ready, I totally miscalculated my dates, and I thought like I'm not that late like on my cycle. And then I did a clear blue test and it said pregnant +3. If you look at the leaflet, it says you're at least 6 to 8 weeks if it says that. So I was like, oh, okay. And then I had all these weird symptoms. I was thinking I had some like brain tumor or something because I was feeling really, really sick. I would exercise at the gym and have the most incredible dizzy spells to where I was like having to lie on the floor and everything still spun. And I'm, you know, I'm not thinking of the most logical thing. I'm thinking I'm going to die. I've got something tragically wrong with me. I'm going to die. And then, you know, it was a real relief to get that positive pregnancy test. And it was actually my mum that twigged it. She looked at me and she was like, I think you might need to do a pregnancy test. I was like, it won't have happened that fast, Mum. Like, it's like, it wouldn't just happen that fast. And then obviously I did the test. So I had the knowledge that I'm pregnant the day before, like not even the day, it was like hours before I'm getting married. And I have to keep it to myself the whole day. So for most brides, it's nerve-wracking enough getting married. But then with that on top of it, I was like, let's get him down the aisle first, get him to say I do, and then announce that you're going to have a baby together.
Okay.
Get him to sign on the dotted line.
Yeah. Oh. Tell us about the latest book, The Race for the Ruby Sunrise. First time collaboration with Morticia Gale. Is this a new genre for you? Vampires?
Yeah, it was off the back of an idea that I had whilst I was writing Midnight, and I thought, oh, that's quite a nice quirky idea actually. I'll just, you know, make a note of it and I'll put it to one side, and it'll, you know, it'll just be a bit of fun. It won't be like my mainstream books. It'll just be a fun, light-hearted story to chuck together at some point. Yeah. So it kept coming back to me, and I was talking more and more to my friend about it, she reads insane amounts of books in a month. She's one of those people that just digests books really quickly and retains a lot of the information.
Just Morticia,
and then we were talking, we were talking about ideas and like potentially where to take the characters. And then I said, well, why don't we collaborate together on it? So that's what we did. And then before you know it, we've invented a 7-book series on adjacent to the 7 books I'm writing, which is the spin-off series from Pink Club, which is probably a little easier because the characters are already enmeshed in Pink Club. So I'm, you know, that's a bit easier than, but this, oh my gosh, like just, it was like if C.S. Lewis and Terry Pratchett and I don't know, the team that invented Mission Impossible all got together and made a baby, like this would probably be it. You know, it was like it's got everything going in there. And the rough draft was great fun to write, but then going back to it and doing like the rewrite to refresh the chapters, that was just something else. I was just like, I love this crazy world, and I genuinely believe if we hadn't collaborated on this story and I just walked into a bookshop and I just read the blurb and I was reading the story, I think I'd thoroughly enjoy it because it is totally bonkers. Like it's pure fiction for starters, but it's great fun, and there's some like really good comical moments in there. It's a book that doesn't take itself too seriously. And I like to think of readers enjoying it like after a really hectic day, or if they've got a lot going on in life and they just want that pure escapism, you know, a world that shouldn't exist, but it does on paper and maybe in their imaginations, and can lift them a bit. But no, it's been great fun, and I can't wait to see like where it's going to go next. But I'm being good. I'm being restrained because Siren is like, no, my turn now. You're going to write my story. I was like, okay.
How does it work with Morticia then? Do you split word counts, or do you do a bit each on chapters, or did she just give you some input? I don't quite understand how it's all working. I know I understand the collaboration, but how's yours work?
So I do all the writing for the story, but we'll spend like a good hour and a half like talking through where the story is and like where to take it next, and just bounce ideas off each other. And then you know, if I've got ideas, I always double check with her, and then she'll have her input. And it's been real pleasure actually doing that, and it just has been it's just been really easy, I think, because we like to read the same types of books as well. She's always recommending books to me. Like, she got me addicted to JD Robb's In Death series, so I keep blaming her for that. You know, it's 59 books plus in the series. So I'm like, it's like a second mortgage job. It really is. It's like you are invested when you start the In Death series. You are locked into that. It's a bit like Delta James. She got me into Delta James as well. And then not only did she get me into Delta James, but some way she got me connected with Delta James. So yeah, that was pretty special. So yeah, we have a really good bond. We're great friends, and she's like family to me. So yeah, to do this collaboration, it's magic. It really is.
Yeah, so you bounce ideas off each other really well then. And have I got this right? In the same book, the dedication is to Duncan, Barry, Marie, Tasha, Lee, Delta, Chris, Renee, Terry, and Steve. Wow. Thank you very much.
The midnight book, isn't it? That's brilliant.
That's excellent.
Well, because you guys give me a voice, and you know, some way to talk about my books, and it's so important. That's another thing with writers and authors, like to have space to talk about your books, like the radio or like the show you guys have on YouTube, which is phenomenal. And I love watching your interviews. The guys that you interview, they're just, you know, easy to watch, and I'm making notes all the time of new books to read. How do I cram in time to read? You must be wondering.
Emma, there's far too many. I've got about 30 in my pile, my to be read pile. Half of them are Kindle books, half of them are like personally signed, and it's too much. You can go on forever reading them. But where can people get hold of your books? Is it from your website or Amazon? Where's the best place to go?
So the best place is just Amazon, really. Any country that has Amazon that sells Kindle books. So you can get them on Kindle Unlimited, which it's free for customers to get on their Kindle Unlimited account, or you can download on Kindle or the paperback version as well. So yeah, lots of options for the readers, but yeah, all on Amazon. So that makes it easy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, brilliant. And from me, final question. I've probably asked you this before, but what advice do you give to an aspiring new writer who wants your advice on how to do it and how to write a book?
What you've been through, especially, the experience that you've had.
Yeah. So you just write it. Don't get too in your head about the grammar, because you know, you can get an editor that, if you do your homework and you're conscientious enough, you can get a good editor, you know, and go by word of mouth. Talk to reach out to like best-selling authors, you know, like for ideas on like who to trust and everything, like I did with Delta. Just don't overthink the process. Just write it down, you know, and just get it finished and done, because then you can go back, and this is my process. I write it all down. I'm not thinking about words and where I'm putting them in and how it all looks and grammar and everything. I'm like, get the story out and then go back, and then you can refine and iron out the kinks and make it flow better. And then you can hand it to your proofreader, editor, alpha, beta readers, and everybody else that you've got ready to, you know, digest it and help you get it to being published.
And be careful who you pick as your editor.
Yep.
Just be very careful, go by word of mouth, and speak to lots of authors and get recommendations that way. That's my advice, definitely.
That's brilliant advice.
Brilliant.
But Emma, sadly, time has caught up with us. But again, it's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back again. And hopefully we'll have more chats with the book
We will.
that I'm
We will.
writing
You know we
and
will.
finished and published. We'll have to do the one for the Ruby Sunrise because that book, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like the sound of it. Yeah.
It was a nice
Oh,
surprise.
yeah, it's always
that book,
entertaining and interesting speaking to you because you've always got some great stories to tell us, even if it's not about writing.
See, my dad was right. He said I'm a great storyteller, so I've got a vivid imagination. So yeah, I'm lucky I've retained it somehow from being little. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to chatting to you in the future with more books to sell. Hopefully,
that's a deal. Thanks, Emma. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.
And you.